Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about this Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palette, and this is called Bang Bang. That's the name of the palette. It costs £2.50. I purchased mine from Superdrug, and that's what the shadows look like inside. So when I first saw this, I thought it would make a really good smoky eye palette, because it's got all the necessary shades in there. These shadows are baked, so they are domed, which means that they can be used wet or dry. I'm going to be swatching them dry today, and I'm going to have a video up showing you how I got this look, and all of these eyeshadows were applied dry in that video as well. So you should get to see that this week as well. That'll be uploaded. So yeah, like I say, this costs £2.50 from Superdrug, super bargain for 5 eyeshadows. Basically, first of all, I just want to get into the swatches so we can see what they look like. So the first shadow we are going to swatch is this white one here. And this swatches quite well. It's just a really nice white shimmery shadow with like an ice blue tint. So it's really pretty and super shimmery. And this makes a really nice brow bone highlight or inner corner highlight. This palette gets really messy really easily, so they do have quite a bit of fallout. Something else the palette does come with is one of these little sponge tip applicators, but I won't get too into those. If you've been watching my video, you probably know how I feel about these already. I don't have much use for them, but it's cool that it comes with those. So the next shadow I'm going to swatch is this kind of gunmetal grey type colour, which looks so pretty in the pan. Once swatched, it's okay. It just looks more like a faded black than a gunmetal grey, if that makes sense. It almost looks like you've applied black eyeshadow, but it's just faded slightly. So, I don't know. It swatches okay. But it also looks really similar to the other black shadow in this palette, which is the next one I'm going to swatch. So this is just a deeper black shadow. Just at that one there. And you'll see what I mean. They don't have much difference to them. So that's the gunmetal grey, and then you've got the black there. Which, yeah, it's a little bit darker, but I just feel like it's not different enough. To be honest, I feel like they're too similar to have both in the palette. The next shadow is this really cool silver shadow here. And of course these are baked, so they are super shimmery. And this is just a really nice silver shade here. And this is what I'm wearing on the inner part of my eyelid today. It's a really nice shadow. This one tends to fade a little bit faster than the other shadows. And when I say tends to fade, only a slight bit, like you can kind of see kind of my skin colour peeking through after the 8-hour mark. So it's nothing too crazy. It's like they last really well on the eyelids, which I'll come to a bit later. But the silver one tends to fade first. Then the final eyeshadow we have in this palette is this really cool deep blue shadow here. I'll just swatch that one. Again, this looks awesome in the palette. But when swatched, even though you can tell it's a deep blue in the swatch, so it does look a lot different. When applied to the lid, you do need to build it up a lot, because again, once applied, it can look really similar to these two colours here. I might actually apply these wet to the other hand and then compare them, because I haven't tried them wet yet, to be honest, so I want to do a fair review. Just to see if this comes out more blue and then this shade comes out more grey, maybe when applied wet. So I'm just going to go and do that. A nice damp brush. So let's just go into the white shade first and swatch that. Okay, so that's the white shade dry, and then that's the white shade wet. There's not too much difference, to be honest. Let's go into the gunmetal shade. Once again, I feel like it looks, so there's a gunmetal shade dry, and there it is wet. I don't know, there's really not that much difference, to be honest, once I've applied these two wet. Let me try the other ones. Again, I feel like it intensifies the shimmer when wet, but it doesn't really change up the colour that much. So that's the black swatch there. Just do this silver and the blue. Okay, the silver seems to apply worse when wet. I actually prefer when it's dry. So that's the silver used wet there. Again, very shimmery, but I don't know, it apply kind of patchy. And then you've got the dry silver here. And last but not least, we have the blue shade. Okay. Now I feel like this does come out more blue, but again, it is kind of patchy. So that's the blue on that side, but the blue does look more intensified on this hand here. So that's the blue wet and the blue dry. So to be honest, the majority of these shadows, well, pretty much everything but one, it doesn't really make much of a difference when used wet. It does intensify the shimmer a bit more, but I don't really feel like it brings the colours out that much, apart from that blue shadow. But again, the problem is it does apply a little bit patchy when wet. So yeah, using them wet doesn't excite me too much because I don't feel like it makes enough of a difference for me. Okay, so you've seen the swatches wet and dry, and you've heard my thoughts on them. I'm just going to talk about my overall thoughts on the palette itself. Firstly, for £2.50, I think it's an absolute bargain, and considering they swatch pretty good and they apply to the eyes pretty well, I feel like you can't really go wrong for £2.50. For 5 eyeshadows, that's pretty awesome. I mean, there are a few minor problems, such as pigmentation when it comes to applying to the eyes, but I feel like that's nothing that can't be solved with either a good primer or maybe something like the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, or even a black base to bring out maybe the blue kind of hues and the grey kind of hues and those darker colours as well. That might make more of a difference than applying them wet. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And the other slight problem I have with them is I feel like these darker shades all look a little bit too similar. They look okay in the swatches, but once applied to the eyes, I mean, I've got the blue applied here, black up there, and then the carbon grey here, and unless you look quite closely, I don't feel like you could tell too much of a difference, especially once blended. They just seem to kind of blend into one shade. Talking of blending, though, they are very, oh, nearly dropped it, they are very easily blendable, so that's really good. You don't have to sit there for hours, so that's really, really awesome. And I don't find that they blend away either. So they're pretty nice shadows to work with. Although I did say I feel like these are quite similar, in general I actually love the, this looks so messy now, I've been swatching them, but I do love the shade range of this palette. They do look so different in the palette as well. So I feel like if this remained black and then this had more grey to it and this had more blue, if it was as blue as it looks in this palette, then I feel like it would just make life slightly better for me, because I do think these are beautiful, beautiful colours. But again, I just feel like they're a bit too similar once applied. So apart from those few minor problems, I just feel for £2.50 it is a bargain, and I definitely recommend that you go and check it out, because, you know, look, they swatch really well, they apply really nicely, and they last a really long time. You know, overall, I'm really impressed with how long lasting these are. I was out all day on, I think it was Saturday, when I applied these, and I applied every shade. I did this look that I've got on here, and I just wanted to kind of test them out because I thought I'm out all day, I'll see, it'd be really good to see how well they wear throughout the day, you know, which colours or shades fade first. So I applied it about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I've been out all day. I went out and got my roots, I went to the hairdressers and got my roots done. I then went to my mum's house for a barbecue. So, and it was a really hot day, and then we went for a really, really, really long walk, like an hour and a half's worth of walk on a really hot day. And I felt like although I did get a little bit of, maybe a tiny bit of fallout, but I think it's where I was scratching my eyes, like underneath my eyes, to be honest, from the smoke on the barbecue. And But apart from that, nothing had really faded majorly. There was a little bit of fading going on this silver colour and a tiny bit on the bluer colour, but it was nothing too major and it still looked really good. Nowhere near as good as, like, not like I'd freshly applied it, but it still looked good and wearable. You know, it didn't look a mess or anything like that. So that's really, really awesome. Application wise, they can get quite messy. They are baked eyeshadows, so I find that they do have quite a lot of fallout. So don't forget to tap off your brush to remove any excess powder before applying these to your eyes, because you will get a ton of fallout, and especially with the darker colours, if you've already applied your foundation and your concealer, it's just going to look a bit of a hot mess. So you might want to either think about applying your eyeshadow before you apply the rest of your makeup, or using something like shadow shields, or maybe applying a lot of translucent powder to catch any fallout. Or basically what I did, I just tapped off my brush really well, and then I just built up the intensity to my liking. So yeah. So overall, this is a pretty awesome palette for £2.50, and I definitely want to try out more of these baked eyeshadows in the Makeup Revolution range, because I think they're an absolute bargain. You can buy Makeup Revolution online on their website. I think it's makeuprevolution.co.uk. Don't quote me on that, but or you can go to Superdrug. I know Superdrug stock them, which is where I got this from, and so you can go, and if you don't really want to buy online and you prefer to go and swatch, which is something I prefer to do if I can, you can swatch these and see how you like them. But I definitely recommend that you go and check them out, because they're an absolute bargain, and I think you can get some really pretty looks with them, especially if you're really into smoky eyes. So yeah, anyway guys, that's my review for today. I hope that you found it helpful in some way, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye.